I like those mosaic panels.
Yeah, they're very nice.
Pastels on black.
This is a very cute little.
I can't read it upside down. What is that?
It's a clock, clock module.
Oh,
Yeah, so it sets the clock. You got air output, but it can take clock in and do division on it. They have another tiny little tile that I just got, which is a 4 HP 1U tap tempo.
okay.
What's the button do? If that's not
The button is hold, so you can try to, if you take the input, you can hold this. It won't output, and then do this if you want to resync time.
Oh, so it just like mutes the clock?
It kind of just holds it.
Oh,
it just
holds
stops
it high.
Holds it high, and then when you release it, then it goes.
Oh.
It just picks back up where it left off.
Interesting. That's cool.
I actually ordered a couple other things from them recently from Detroit Modular. They've got a pretty big lineup now of 1U modules.
They do.
They got a VCO,
Drums
a mixer,
and shit like that.
drums, a mixer. IntelliGels did a bunch of stuff. Obviously, Ritual and After Later. Yeah, they've been doing a lot of stuff, but I think Mosaic is like swooping in to fill in those gaps. This is nice too. I mean, just having like the
peak.
the 1U, the 1U peaks is.
Is that after later?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I know they do a lot of different variations of peaks.
Yeah.
Didn't know they had a 1U. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that does have like the, what is it, Dead Man's firmware?
Dead Man's Catch,
Dead
yeah.
Man's Catch,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, it has that as a firmware, which is really fucking nice, but I did have to print out the cheat sheet for it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of modes, and they're actually all pretty fucking useful. At first I was like, I kind of wanted the opposite when I got this. I was like, I just want something simple. I just want simple LFOs or simple envelopes.
Yeah.
But then once I started like diving into the other stuff that firmware has, it's all good. Like I'm pretty stoked on it. So this is the nice form factor for getting it. These little tiny potentiometers are a little hard sometimes to dial into, but it is envelopes and LFOs. It's not the end of the world. It's not like frequency. Because I even kept these knobs on the Buchla, these big honking knobs, just to get it easier to dial into.
Yeah, they are nice.
Yeah. Plus, it just aesthetically
Yeah, it's hard to like fuck with it. They did such a good job with it.
Exactly, because I even took one of these off and put a Davies knob on it to see like, and it looked fine, but it definitely like, I'm not gonna fuck with this.
I have mine right next to the Danny Sound MML filter too, and it uses the same like Rogan skirt knob, so it looks aight.
Nice.
That one's black though, but
really,
still cool.
Yeah. I'm even fine with this being a not black panel, but
It's the only one in there. It's not.
it is. It's one of the few panels that I haven't switched to black or just painted myself. And it's not because I'm thinking of flipping it. Guess we can start talking about this. Is the Buchla dual oscillator 2581 from Tiptop.
25AT.
I fucked that up. That looks like a 1 to
Thanks
me.
a lot, Dave.
You know what, though? That's why we do this as a team.
That's right.
When one of us falls down, the other two are there to pick us back up, Greg. When there was only one set of footprints in the sand, it's because Nick was carrying
That's
me.
exactly where I was going to go. I'm glad you did.
But yes, the 258T. Thank you, Nick. It's fantastic. I'm really blown away by it. It's really it exceeded my expectation, and I may have mentioned this in a previous episode that like for a really long time, like the 90s and early 2000s, like a Buchla system was like, oh my god, if I could just get one, that would change everything. And it was very like I coveted it very highly.
Same.
And then when I went to KnobCon and played with an easel for a while and like played with like a setup and all this, I was still into it, but I kind of was like, it isn't the end all be all. And so I kind of was like,
Your gas got deflated.
So on one hand, I was glad that I didn't have that fervor anymore. But like I still was like, it's still a sound I like. This though, this is meeting the last remnants of what I wanted from that sound without diving into the Buchla system and the environment and frankly the cost of it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a 2 oscillators. They both start from sine, but the top one goes sine to saw, and then the bottom one is sine to square. And then outside of that, they are basically the same controls, same inputs. Two outputs, track 1 volt per octave, CV over the shape,
Which is rad.
there's a input for FM, and then there's this processor.
I think that's bipolar FM, whereas the other one's not.
Now, a couple of weird things is that I kind of expected when I first saw it was I kind of assumed there would be some sort of normal on the FM
Oh yeah.
between the two, but they're not. You've got to patch them. Not a huge complaint. It's just don't expect normal if nothing is plugged in. And that may actually be the end of my list of complaints / oddities. It's fucking amazing. I think they nailed it.
Yeah, I'll say it's like interesting. Not that I care, but the panel's like thinner than other panels. It's always like a little sunk behind other stuff, which I don't care about. Yeah, for like $200 to get 2 of those oscillators, and I'm like you, like would use the easel. I forget where. I think I used Richard Nichols' easel at Oscillate years ago, and I was like, wow, that's completely underwhelming. Didn't really like it. Didn't like the 200E stuff when I used it. It just wasn't super appealing, and this is always like kind of what I've wanted from Buchla. I don't even want the other modules so much. Like this 5-step sequencer looks cool, but it's not like, that's kind of redundant. It just looks like it's nicely laid out. But yeah, it's like kind of the one I want. I'm super happy with it. The sound quality is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely, and it holds the low end
So
really
nicely.
well in a way that was I don't even know if that's historically accurate or not. Like I and I don't care. I was shocked by just how well everything has a beef to it that is shocking.
Because I remember at KnobCon 1 year later, one of the last ones I used a 200, that like 258R, the Roman flip-off dude that does Sputnik stuff, makes his clones that go for like $5,000. And I patched that up because I always wanted to hear it, and it sounded ridiculous. And then I got like the same feel from it when I patched that up. I'm like, oh, sweet, this totally covers what I want for like 20th of the price. It's ridiculous.
If anyone goes on the internet, you're going to see plenty of videos of people doing some just letting it run like as a drone or as a pad. The sort of like, not, I don't want to call it a typical use, but like really just an unprocessed Buchla sound. That sounds good on its own.
Yeah.
But I've been fucking with this and doing different things with it. It's actually more versatile than I thought it was going to be. Getting drum sounds out of it. And like you were saying, having the CV over the shape. And what that does to the sound.
Sounds awesome.
Sounds amazing, yeah.
Yeah, I do like really boring stuff with it that sounds good. Like the triangle wave sounds really nice. Like it just has, I don't know, something to it. Something in the waveform that looks a little special and sounds really good. And that bargain, like they could have charged much more money and they would have sold out just as quickly. So it's cool that they actually like, here's a fucking budget option, something we didn't like turn into a joke, It's pretty, like, they nailed the sweet spot. I have much respect for Tiptop for that shit, and Buchla.
Same here. Also, similarly, I don't know if I'm going to get any of the other ones. I've looked at them, and even the chaos or the random.
Oh, yeah. Is that Source of Uncertainty?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah. I might get it, but I don't necessarily know if I'm super excited about having a full Buchla workflow. I think I'm just happy with this.
Yeah, I'm right there too. I don't want to get the rest of them. A lot of people like want to build full cases of them, and I get that. Like I can see the appeal of it, but there's too much overlap with stuff I already have. I don't need low pass gates. I don't need more slope generators or anything like that. But
yeah, I could see it being appealing if you didn't already have a system.
Yeah.
If you're starting from scratch and you're like, well,
No
fuck it,
doubt.
I'm going to go this like pseudo Buchla route here.
Especially for the price. I mean, it's one of the cheapest options, just period, to getting like Euro shit that is decently made.
Yeah. There's a part of me that was like, I've got to find something bad with this. But there was a couple of things in like the Mod Wiggler thread. I think someone made like a comment about like it seeming the pots feeling flimsy. I don't know what they're talking about. There's nothing. I mean, like you're right. The panel's a little thinner, but it's not bending. I'm not having any sort of like.
I'm going to jiggle your pots, Dave.
Do it.
Go ahead and jiggle. For the viewers at home, there is jiggling.
Yeah, I don't really feel give in that.
No.
It doesn't feel like a plasticky pot. I don't know what's under that knob, but it feels solid.
Yeah, I mean, a new,
Yeah.
industrial music electronics module is going to be way more wobbly than that is.
Right.
Not that I care about that either. But yeah, the knobs feel like a little cheaper clone of like the Rogan ones. I don't think they're the like nicer knobs, but it doesn't it looks great. I'm not changing anything about mine either. It's I like the fake banana jacks and the way they color coded it. That one actually kind of lends itself well to the format.
I feel like the wiggly pots is just like a meme at this point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what gets released by whom, there's always going to be at least one person and be like, well, the pots feel a little flimsy, a little wobble there, little disappointed, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what metric they're using to determine what's flimsy and wasn't, but I feel like there are those knobs that like they feel like they're about to break in your hand. Those are bad, but they're honestly kind of rare.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only time I've experienced knobs that bad, or pots that bad, I should say, was like independent clones that somebody made, and they just obviously used like the cheapest parts possible.
Right, yeah.
And it felt like shit. But yeah, I don't know. Not everything is going to feel like a synthesis technology pot. Like those, those are always incredibly solid, but anywhere in between, I think, is acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give any oxygen to the idea that this is somehow not sturdily made.
It's really fucking up your sound.
Yeah,
when you feel that wobble.
Also, holy shit, half that thread is about people bitching that it's not in bubble wrap, and it's like maybe they just made like a decision to be like, we'll see how many we get back, and like, bet you yours fucking works fine, right? Like,
I bet you it does.
It's amazing.
What is
how
it? Just
many
like
people...
in the box?
Yeah, it was just like in the box, basically, tightly fit.
It's snug in the box.
Okay,
but like,
well, like Erica Synths does that. Yeah.
Dofer just gives it to you in a fucking plastic bag a lot of the time, like a Ziploc.
Yeah,
that's how I got a lot of the first Dofer stuff from.
As long as it's not bouncing around in the box, it's fine.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be in pink bubble wrap. Also, there's probably nothing in there that's that static sensitive. Like, think about it. There's no fucking ICs in there, I bet. Maybe there are. I could be wrong.
But like, for controversy and for, an exciting coverage on this, I would love to have found something to complain about.
Yeah.
And yet, even with that desire to complain, which is, pretty strong in me. I love a good complaint. I couldn't find anything. I think they nailed it, so.
Any other dual loss that you're going to spend $200 on is probably going to be dog shit.
Yeah. Or not as versatile.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing is like you can probably find some really bland bread and butter analog oscillators that you're going to get from A to Z pretty quickly. This will be
Does it sound better than my plates, Dave? Flats.
It's very different.
$200.
It's just different,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a little bit like it's apples and oranges, honestly. I mean, I would not get rid of one over the other.
Nah.
Yeah.
I like them both a lot.
Same here. My Platts is not in this palette that we're looking at right now just because it's in my other machine.
The FM, though, you definitely couldn't get a Platts to.
Because you're an analog purist now.
That's right.
It's true. As it is beside this Ornament and Crime and FX Aid. Yes, I'm definitely an analog purist.
The Ornament and Crime, actually, the display's been ripped out and a piece of wood has been put in its place.
It's just an abacus.
Artisan wood panel.
I mean, as far as my notes go, that is the top one and it's underlined. So to our listeners at home, there's show and tell going on right now. Like I brought this palette in with the Buchla, sitting here with a bunch of other stuff. Nick also participated in show and tell.
Yeah.
Greg is not, by the way. I don't know if we really need to make sure that everyone understands that Greg is not participating in show and tell. Even though we're in a room at his house with a million amazing things.
I brought a rock.
Brought a rock. And sparkling water.
But Nick has brought something for... Oh, good.
No, I was just going to say, that just triggered a flashback for me.
Really?
Show and tell. Yeah, I'll never forget, dude. First grade, doing show and tell. Everyone has toys, you know what I mean? Things like that. I brought some Star Wars toys. I don't remember which ones specifically, but I was all excited to show off my Star Wars toys. And there was this one kid who was always weird. And we knew he was like kind of poor, but like we were all buddies with him anyways. And for show and tell, he brought in a Secrets lozenge tin.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then he opened it up and he showed us his gum band and
Single?
some paper clips. Yeah, it was
Single.
It was a gum band.
Yeah.
There was an eraser in it, some paper clips, and I think a coin. And that was his show and tell. And that just always made me feel like such a piece of shit. like everyone, there was plenty of kids laughing at him and shit like that. But like even in first grade, like I had like the empathy, awareness. I was just like, fuck. It's like this kid doesn't have a lot to talk about, man. It was just really sad. And anytime I think of show and tell, that just pops back in my brain. So yes, I brought a secrets tin, and I'm showing you my gum band.
Also, by the way, this does need an editor's note for everyone outside of Pittsburgh who doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about when you say gum band.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. A rubber band.
A rubber band, yes.
A little Pittsburghese happening.
For everyone outside of Pittsburgh, yeah. That was a dramatic story there, Greg.
Yeah,
Wow.
Just trying to keep it, on the low, dark mood.
You
Set the
nailed it.
tone.
Ooh.
Line up a shot. But yeah, in front of me is not a gum band, but an OXI ONE sequencer, which I've mentioned on here before and waited I think it was half a year before they ended up producing it. But they were actually OXI Instruments, who makes the OXI ONE. They were super transparent and they hit all their dates. And as far as Kickstarters go, it was a pretty fucking good one in that regard.
You got this through the Kickstarter?
Yep.
Right on.
Yeah, I was the tail end of it, which is why I was the part of the very last shipment to the last 50.
How the fuck are you powering it?
Good question. It's got an internal battery that you can charge. It's also got Bluetooth.
Is that replaceable?
Good question. I don't think so. Or at least they don't have any instructions on how to. And actually thinking about it, because I have it powered right now with no cables.
Yeah, that's what blew my mind.
I guess you can.
I was wondering why you didn't plug it in at first, but now I see you don't have to.
Yeah, and it's got a nice feature. You can see it's got a shit ton of fucking I/O. And one of the things that's confusing at first is like a 4 sequencer. You can't say it's 4 track, but it's 4 sequencer. And you can pick types. You can pick still learning this. You can pick like mono sequencer type. You can pick poly. There's like a chord one that does like chords, and it will show you like you can hit a button to change the inversions and shit, which is really cool if you're somebody that doesn't know chord stuff that well. Multi-track is actually the answer for like, why does it have 8 CV gate pairs if you only have 4 like tracks, sequencers? Is multi, you can kind of collapse stuff down to a single lane. You can even take like I think one of the other types and like collapse them down into a multi, and it'll kind of smush them together, and then you can address more of the output tracks on
So when you smush them, how does that work when you're doing things with chords?
Good question. I haven't like played with that too much yet. As far as I know, it will put that all into like a single lane on here. I don't know how editing works at that point. That's one of the track types I haven't fucked with too much. I've been playing with mono, poly, and chord. And actually this firmware on here is actually, you can't even get it. Mine came with 1.8, but you can only download 1.6 right now. And it's got this stochastic mode, which you can do some this is the first time I've even gone into it, so I have no idea.
I was going to ask about like
here.
if you're doing like seeding or what you're doing for like
you can
stochastic parameters.
They've ripped off some mono stuff as far as I know, and it'll do a bunch of like random skipping around of a sequence. Like I don't understand that one very well yet. But it's cool. You get this view and you can see you've got like 4 different lanes there. And the cool thing is you can kind of like trigger these in time and be like, start on the next bar, or wait until when I trigger you and then start on 2 bars. So you can get stuff to all like sequence in time.
Oh, no shit.
Mute it, unmute it. There's like a keyboard mode. So this is just like everything that you're playing, and you can record stuff in here. The only bug I've run across so far is like I've gotten some hanging notes, like ons that are stuck in the keyboard mode. I'm sure they'll fix that. That's nothing big. There's an arpeggiator mode I haven't fucked with too much here. Oh, I'm on the wrong track type. You got to be on poly.
Kind of modes we got in ARP?
Good question. Oh, there's on. Nothing too sexy. Oh, okay. Off, up, down, 2 up, 2 down, alternate in, alternate out, alternate in, out, pinky thumb. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Random. I'm definitely still learning it. I've only had it. I think I got this last Monday or something like that.
Can you do things like change the ARP type per step or anything
I
like
don't
that?
think so.
Okay.
I think it's fixed. You can do some like, I think you can do. It's got a CV input, and you can like CV in the track length and shit like that. There's a bunch of different destinations that you can CV. I think if you go to mod, CV in, and the destination could be velocity, pitch, octave, gate, mod, pitch, bend, division, a parameter you could set, trigger probability, any of the CCs. So it does MIDI, 8 CV gates.
Like the entire back of this thing is riddled with inputs and outputs.
You can send tempo synced LFOs out of those. You can send pitch and gate out of those. You can assign any of them to any track basically, and just be like, even in a chord mode, you can say every third note of a chord, send that to one of the CV outputs.
So is that all output generally on the back?
Yeah, most of it's output. Like these are 8 CV gate outs. There's the clock out to the clock or CV in. There's actually that's TRS, so you can get a splitter and send it to either MIDI and MIDI out. So not too much like CV in compared to like the Westlake Performer, which I have, or some other things. And then this awesome pipe output, which is mini HDMI to the module that I got, which is the OXI pipe, which turns out like I'm so fucking glad I got that because couldn't be more convenient. It works really well. It's a passive module, but I don't notice any pitch artifacts or anything like that.
It's basically really just giving you an interface to that output.
Yeah. Each track can have its own clock division, which is nice. I think you can do quantized and unquantized recording. Yeah, definitely still learning it. It's really easy to be able to duplicate stuff or to like extend pattern lengths out.
How does it save as far as like presets or like how do you build, like, is there scenes?
Good question. So in here, and this is what I'm still learning, I haven't set up many patterns yet outside of just single ones, but here's the sequencer arranger, and you can kind of like play the different patterns on the tracks and shit like that.
Gotcha.
This part I don't understand much either. I've just been figuring out how to sequence with it, really digging it. It reminds me so much of the Deluge, and this button grid is actually the exact same number and dimensions of the Deluge button grid. It's probably the same part.
Do you mind if I push one of these buttons?
No, go ahead.
Oh, that's 100% the same.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When I got it, I was like, oh, cool. And that's the one thing I really missed about the Deluge. In fact, for a minute, I was looking at Deluges again. They're still like very expensive. They're one of those things that I think are even more than the new cost right now.
Yeah.
But I love being able to sequence note sequences and be able to see it visually. I was thinking about this today in the shower of all places, as I normally do. Like I like my modular because I like to be able to see visually what's going on in one place, and also really like this sequencer because it lets me do the same. And it's not like this note number tucked into a lane. You know, it's more like, I can just see this fucking note. Makes a lot of sense to me. I think this is chromatic. I don't even understand this. Maybe this is one of the CC outs. Definitely still learning it as I'm trying to learn the MC707, which I'll talk about too. So there are parts of it that have confused me a little.
Kind of describing this to the listeners here. This is obviously this is more than a mono too, but all of the buttons obviously have like multiple colors they can be.
Yeah.
And it almost looks like a jacked up Beat Step Pro,
right?
But with like you're changing the color in real time. So yeah, this looks amazing.
Yeah, I'm super happy with it, especially for the price. I think it was like $750 including the module, which is really fair. It came out, there was a minute when it was shipping to me and the Hapax was released where I was like, I'd used to use the Pyramid forever. I was almost gonna like buy the Hapax and then flip this the moment it arrived. And then Luke actually got the Hapax, which he really likes, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get this and chill with this, and I'm glad I did. It's I like the battery, the portability. I haven't fucked with the Bluetooth much, but it's cool. Like they let you update the Bluetooth firmware separately from the other ones. Like it seems to be designed very well. I think it's like a 1 or 2 person show, and they got the hardware done, and they're like, cool, now I'm onto the firmware. And I will say for a lot of projects, like looking at you, Eloquencer, and some other things, like they've been releasing updates like rapidly to fix bugs.
So you get the sense this is their one and only thing, and they're focused on it.
Yeah, it looks like it. They're going to nail this. Seems like they're excited to work on the firmware more. I'll say too, clocks and receives clock like a motherfucker. Have used it stably for hours. I would use it and will use it in my next live set. Like no question.
That was going to be one of my questions.
It's been
because
totally
it also looks heartily built. Like this is well constructed.
It's all like steel. They talked a lot on the Kickstarter about the process of this. They changed the design multiple times to make it better as they just used the instrument. So like they fucking crushed it in that regard.
So those of us that didn't participate in the Kickstarter, is this available or is it like a waiting list, or like how do you actually get one of these if you don't already have one?
I think you can just order right now, if I recall, but it's still like they build them as they can get MCUs, the ARM processors for them, which are hard to get. So it's always like you could tell when they get another like tray of 50, they're like, yes, 50 more. It's like, yeah, it's just hard to get those for everybody. That's why the Hatbacks, the next batch isn't until June, just because of the fucking processors and building it all.
What kind of generative functions can it do?
So the stochastic stuff, which is in beta, outside of that, there's not too much generative. There's like the random step kind of functionality. There's the ability to CV like some of those values like step length and things like that, and I think even maybe sequence length. But outside of that, not much other than that stochastic thing, which I haven't fucked with too much.
So can you have different lengths per track? Can you have them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
You can have different lengths per track. Actually, it's nice that this overview lets you kind of reset these tracks too, because it gets fucking haywire pretty quickly when you have different track lengths. And it does it true, like how the Deluge has the two modes, like the true, what the fuck is it? What's the word for that? When you have like two different sequence types and the one is like following a master reset and the other one's just always run on their own clock. Whatever, man. The pyramid lets you switch.
Polymetric?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, polymetric. Thank you.
I was thinking we could turn that into like a contest for our listeners to fill in that blank, and then they win something if they actually can remember that word.
I think you can change. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe LFO is just for the track, but it's got MIDI and CV LFOs. I was definitely. This is actually, I've gotten the Virus TI back out again because I was like, okay, let's sit down with this, and it's fucking amazing. To just sit this down with one MIDI cable into the tie, sequence all the parts on it that you want, basically, send LFOs over CCs and things like that. It's just it's a lot of fun in that way. It's really really fun to use. I'm really digging it. Which kind of brings me to got my Jupiter 6 back, and the first thing I did, so thank you Chase Smith of Specs and Sales Electronics, him and Willie Burnett,
out of New York,
out of Brooklyn. They fix a lot of stuff. Tried to get my Jupiter fixed. It was like out of my understanding of being able to fix it. Turned out it was something with the film capacitors on the Vorse boards, which I have on order now from Mauser. Chase couldn't get them in time. He said, no, I reseated the ICs. He redid most of the active electronics, charged me like almost nothing for it. I paid him like more than he charged me for. And it works and it sounds fucking incredible. And I just sat down with it in the OXI, and it was a lot of fun to like output chords into it. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the thing. Like, I was really ramped up to sell it for a while. I was even going to sell it broken because I'm just like, I don't want to take care of a 43-year-old synthesizer for much longer.
I don't think that thing has been like functional since I've known you.
Yeah, it's always had problems.
I always remember being kind of like off, in your setup, like just chilling.
It's been broken more often than not that I've had it. But when it does work, it's awesome. Except, some of the things inherent to the Jupiter 6, like clicky envelopes that are kind of fucking annoying. But you can just bump the attack up a little and get out of that trap a little. But yeah, super enjoying that, the combo. I'm glad I have it. I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to sell it at this point. Or at least I'm going to play with it for a long time. Because Chase calibrated it. It's like, oh, this is what it's like when this thing actually all works perfectly.
Nice. Yeah, no, and I remember you were fired up to sell it, but that's rather you're keeping it.
Yeah, I got it for a song in 2003 or something like that.
I bet it looks sexy next to your 808.
Oh yeah, no, it and the 808 are fine friends. Yeah, you had a question you were going to ask me about it, didn't you?
Oh, my question was going to be, are you keeping it?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that was. I remember you were talking about getting rid of it, and I think there was one time I was at your house. We were working on something, and it was on.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, like it was basically like already having fits and wasn't working,
Yeah.
and so I'm very excited to see what you cook up with an actually working one.
Yeah. I'm going to recap some of the voice boards. It's got a little bit of dirt in the VCR, a little bit of a click. But it's not like a big deal. But I wonder if replacing those film caps will kind of make it a little more smooth. But yeah, I'm psyched to keep it now that I know that somebody can like help me with it. Because the other person I went to was like, yeah, it'll just be a year and it's going to be $2,000 no matter what's wrong with it, because I, fix fucking things for the Eagles and you're just some dumbass in Pittsburgh, and I get it. Like, and I even at one point was like, yeah, okay, let me know in half a year. And they never got back to me. And I called them and they're like, yeah, it'll be a year from now. I'm like, okay, I can't keep doing this. And that was part of the frustration, is like, because I don't want to maintain vintage gear. I'm not into it. I don't want to. I can see how some people are. I like building modules, but not, nah. But yeah, psyched to have both of these huge positive additions. I'm really glad that I jumped on this like half a year ago.
Totally slipped under my radar, man. A few months back, before I was getting too deep into VCV rack, I was looking at outboard sequencers again, and I kept leaning towards the torso, mainly because I liked some of the generative and functions that it had, you know what I mean? But I did not like how everything was like kind of tucked away on that thing. Like it's too small, too menu based. But seeing this grid, like that's always been a highlight for any sequencer that I've enjoyed over time.
No doubt.
Is being able to see the steps.
And it doesn't look like it's one of the problems I had when I had a monome was it's basically a sea of buttons. There's a sea of
that's always been too daunting to me. That's why I didn't like the luge either, though. Like that's why I was kind of turned off by it, because it looked like a monome to me. And I'm like, I'm just gonna get lost in a sea of nondescript white buttons.
That is totally reasonable, but I've never had that problem with Deluge, where even having the smallest monome that I can make, I got lost even in that tiny grid. Where like this doesn't have that problem, and Deluge doesn't for me.
Yeah.
Like this is pretty nice.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about the stochastic feature.
Yeah. I wonder if I could get it to work a little better here.
Like if it can do certain things like transpose once per cycle, or anything like that make it like evolve.
That's actually a good question. Is one thing it does have is trigger conditions from the Electron.
There we go.
Nice.
So you can do like play this. I can't remember how to
play once every fourth rotation type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Where is that? I think it's on the gate. No, where the fuck is that? I forget. Because I was super excited about it. Yeah, trigger 100%. You can do percentage, and then it goes right to 1 every 2 times, 1 every 3 times, like every one up to 8
That's
out of 8
awesome.
times. Yeah, that's fucking huge. I got so excited by that feature. Because that's really key to me, because that's one thing the 707, which I may talk about, can't do that. And I'm realizing that Electron has ruined me. And if a sequencer doesn't have that, I really have a hard time getting into it.
So one of the things that Deluge has is if you've got two notes on different tracks in the same step, you can have them based on you can do percentages based on either of them. Ooh. And if they add up to 100, that means at least one of them will be done every time.
That's smart.
This doesn't have that.
No, I might suggest that.
See, here's the thing that this other product does. That it's incredibly fucking nice. I use the shit out of it. Huh. So that would be really rad if they added that to this too.
I don't think that was there when I was using it. Oh, random perform. What is it? You can do some random velocity, random octave, random retrigger, and you can perform those to some degree. I don't know how that works yet either.
Okay. You mentioned Euclidean, so I take it you can use this as a drum sequencer?
Yeah.
Does it have like ratcheting?
It has retriggers, no ratcheting. It does have, no, it doesn't have micro steps. The 707 does, I think.
Okay.
Oh, wait. No, I might be wrong. Damn it. I think it does have the ability to shift in time.
Ooh.
Why am I missing that? I could be, again, thinking about the 707.
So while you're looking for that, I want to let the users know that whatever this little screen on it
Offset.
is looks fucking amazing. I'm like
Nice.
on the other side of a table, and I can read this perfectly fine.
Yeah, at like any angle.
Yeah,
Super nice
this is-
OLED.
This is really nice.
The 707, it actually inverts the more you look at it at a different angle. It's like, oh. Yeah, you can offset each step individually. Retrigger it, trigger probability, and glide you can set for every step.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm super psyched on it. Still learning. There's still it's still in development. Like for right now, you can't save as on a project. Like if you're doing work on project 1 and you like where you're going, you better keep saving project 1, because when you can't like save project 1 to project 2 yet, and people are like immediately complaining, he's like, yeah, I'll get to it. I know.
Right.
For now, just like work with this, right? Or you can, there's some backup software or something like that where you can like back the thing up and then like copy something over manually.
So that's
but
a little
use, like,
clunky.
Yeah, but he's known. He's like, yeah, that's not as important right now. I'm like, cool, I get it. Like, I
And it sounds like you have
work with
faith that will actually be executed well.
Yeah. Given how quick the updates have been coming out after the hardware release, I've got some faith in the fact that it's not like it works. I haven't had it crash on me. Aside from that stuck note, nothing weird has happened. And apparently the battery will last for like up to 6 hours or something like that on a charge. You charge it on the left side. There is a USB, which is your USB MIDI and your charging.
Gotcha.
And then there's the little off button, and that's about it.
This is also smaller than I thought it was going to be based
Same.
on the pictures. And I thought it was going to be along the size of like the Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what the form factor I thought it was going to be. And this is maybe the same size as the BeatStep Pro, maybe a little bit wider, but this is going to add nothing to it, like a live set, like how much you got to carry around, the weight.
No, exactly. That's why it made its way into the live set, to all live sets easily, just because it's so easy. The MIDI, it's all 1/8" jacks, but I think they actually have it where it'll work with both of the stupid types of MIDI to 1/8", which I think anybody anymore should do. Yeah, super sick. Oh, and you can like nudge sequences back and forth in time.
Oh,
like,
cool.
It has most of the stuff that you could think of. Copy and paste works really well for notes and patterns. Yeah, and you can configure stuff like you can have it follow the sequence or not. You can
that's cool.
program stuff that isn't active and then kind of go back, which not too many pieces of gear will do. But yeah, OXI Instruments, OXI ONE. Hope they keep cranking them out and can get their parts and everything, because stoked on it.
Yeah, I can see getting one of these in the future at some point. Like you're getting a lot of shit for that amount of money.
Yep. Yeah, this and the Hapax I think are like kind of a next step up for hardware sequencers. Especially the Hapax is $999, and that thing can do like way more than this, honestly. I like this approach too. It's a little simpler, but still has a lot of power. The Hapax can load like 2 projects at once, like all sorts of weird shit. Yeah, it's cool to see what people are doing.
Yeah.
Just imagine like having this like 20 years ago. Be like,
Oh,
what the
yeah,
fuck
no.
is this? Stoked.
Nice. Greg, I see you've put a kickstand on your cell phone.
So I could read my notes.
I didn't realize your phone had a kickstand though. That is very
I
nice.
often forget that it does. I just remembered now, and I said, "Oh, finally get to use this."
We have 2 very positive experiences so far. Are you about to?
I'm gonna keep that train rolling.
Nice.
I don't have anything to bitch about right
What?
now. I have some high praise.
For what?
What is it, Greg?
2 things.
Well, oh my
But
God.
I'll start with the first one. That is dipping into some new territory we haven't really discussed before on a podcast. Talking, of course, the V word.
Wait, are you talking about VSTs?
VSTs.
Are you fucking kidding
What?
me?
Yeah.
Talk about a time warp.
Let's go back in time.
Wow. So you're on KVR
We're on
audio.
KVR. It's the year 2001.
It's day 0. You're going to get some Paradox
And
Rocks.
I forgot to turn my speakers down, and Team Air Keygen music
Yes.
is blasting my ears out.
Oh my God.
Full volume.
Paradox
Hear it
Rocks.
now.
Rocks.
But yeah, I've purchased and installed some VSTs for the first time in a long time from one Noise Engineering.
Tight.
Yeah. But let's take a step back before I go into that.
Hopefully we don't go so far back as the Noise Engineering interview that we fucked up.
Oh my
Let's
god.
not speak of that.
Okay, let's not go that far back.
No, like, I have pretty much zero interest in most VSTs these days. Saying the word kind of gives me anxiety, like the whole option paralysis. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Or
just
just
such
spending
an overwhelming.
And spending every morning waking up and finding out what the new ones are. And
What the new ones
trying
are, what
them.
you need to update that you already have
Yeah.
installed.
Oh, a new compressor.
Yeah. I definitely need another one. I only have 50 installed.
This might be the one that actually solves all of my problems, though.
Yeah. No, I mean, getting into modular was like something that I did because of, just burning out on VST and software in general.
Yeah.
So it's pretty weird to me that it's the year 2022 and I'm excited about VSTs right now.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, I saw that Noise Engineering had released a new bundle of VSTs. It wasn't just like a single one. It was called Bundle 1. It had in it the VST port of their Basilamus, their Cursus, and their Desmodus Versio reverb / delay, all bundled together. And like I got the email and I was like, that's cool. Good for you, Noise Engineering.
Right.
And I deleted it. And I didn't think about it again, but like in the back of my head, like throughout the day, I kept thinking like, wow, that would be cool though, to be able to have like multiple Basilamuses open. Basilami. And do like what I was doing in my modular rig a couple years back and having like a drum machine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, that would be slick to have in software.
Oh, wait. We got to stop, though.
Okay.
This is not an endorsement of email blasts, email promotions, email mailing lists. Just because it worked this one time
worked
on
me,
you
finally,
doesn't mean everyone should run out and start an email list. Like, I feel like you're maybe encouraging some bad behavior here.
Maybe. It did work on me. It hooked me in. It planted that seed, of being able to open, have multiple instances of some of my favorite plugins of theirs. And I was like, if only I could open that, in VCV Rack, then I would be on board. And then like a few hours later, I was like, wait a minute. Because I was still thinking about it. And like I had finished work and, the evening was upon me. And I was like, just fucking around in music. And I was like, you can open VSTs in VCV Rack. It's just not a onboard function and it's not for free. I had totally forgot that they have a separate package just called VCV Host that allows you, costs $30 and allows you to open like any VST effect or instrument from within VCV Rack. It's a wrapper basically. Yeah.
How does it appear in VCV Rack?
It just appears as like a blank module with a tiny screen, kind of like their in-out module. You know what I mean? Like it just has a grid of like CV ins.
Okay.
And a small menu. Nothing fancy. But yeah, like you open the VST within that, and then on the side, you'll just have the actual instrument or effect, whatever the fuck it may be. Doesn't really matter because like the interface is the same, but there's two separate modules. There's like VCV host instrument and same thing for effects.
Okay.
So I bought it. I spent the $30 and then I bought the Noise Engineering plugins, and like within an hour, I was just kind of like having a blast, doing exactly what I was hoping that I would be able to do.
Yeah.
It was a success. The plugins are scalable. Like Noise Engineering did a good job with these, which is one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring it up. It's not just like a direct port of the hardware. It's not even just a direct reproduction of what they have available for Reason as a rack extension. Like they have graphic options. You can scale the size of it to 3 different sizes. They all have their own onboard modulation grid. Like you can assign a LFO or an envelope to any parameter, and it's just a grid, like it's a separate
Ooh.
page.
Yeah.
But as nice as that is, I don't even need it because I'm doing it within VCV Rack. You know what I mean? So like when you use the VCV host, you can assign, you know, whatever modulation source you want to any parameter that can accept modulation. So yeah, I was literally modulating a virtual instance of a Bacillus within VCV Rack with my hardware rig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Through like, so strange, but it was working like a champ.
And there's no delay. There's like everything.
No.
This is all just seamless.
It's pretty solid.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I made my own version of a drum machine. You know what I mean, with it, and I was sequencing it within VCV Rack and affecting it with my hardware, and it was just a very strange meta hybrid setup, and it was working fantastic.
And it sounds good. I mean, everything. It's what you would expect.
Sonically, I mean, just because I've spent so much time with the BIA, I can tell the differences. It's a little thinner, of course, which is, I think, to be expected. But it is like near identical. Like I'm able to dial in a lot of the same percussive sounds that I was doing on hardware very quickly, very easily. The only thing that seemed a little weird to me is the scaling of CV. It seems to only want to accept positive, and it always wants to start from like 0. I had to use like offsets and things like that to get things like where I wanted it from, like the starting point for the modulation. That problem doesn't exist if you use the onboard modulation grid or matrix, I should say.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I don't know what is up with that, but it was working, you know.
So, and how many of these did you have multiple instances running
at
the same time? Like, how many did you have?
A lot. I had like I had like 2 cursuses going, a few Bacillus going, being routed through a couple different instances of their Versio stuff. Because that package includes Desmodus, which is like the reverb one, but they also offer for free, and I forget the name of it right off the top of my head, but the distortion Versio as well. So I was running things through that. Like I was trying to push it, you know, just as a test, and it all went pretty well. It seems like it eats a little more CPU than your average VCV module, which makes sense, I guess. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like bringing my CPU to a halt or anything. I was able to do a lot with it. And they added some extra features to it as well. Like the Cursus now has on board a filter / low pass gate, and also a chorus, like effects processor, all of which are multi-mode. Like you can do high pass, low pass. The chorus has like type 1, type 2. So that's kind of cool. You know, like they expanded upon it a little bit, and it sounded solid. So I have no complaints there. And for the price, you know, it's not the cheapest VST, but like...
Right, but if you had all of those, if you bought all of that hardware, you'd be in thousands of dollars.
Thousands of dollars.
Right,
I tried to estimate it when I had like a good drum machine patch going the other day. I was like, this I think would literally cost me about 10 grand. I mean, since I've been trying to keep things more economical lately, you know what I mean? And offset things from my hardware to VCV. One of the things that I was missing the most was voices. You know what I mean? Like I was offloading a lot of utility, like I think I talked about in the previous episode.
You did, yeah.
Sequencing, utility, modulation, all that was going to VCV, whereas a lot of the sound sources and voices I was trying to keep as hardware. This has opened up a whole new door. You know what I mean? Because I'm like really familiar with the noise engineering stuff. It sounds close enough. This was like the missing link, I think, that I've been looking for to really keep things cost effective and to be able to push this hybrid setup further.
Now, has this made you look at other VSTs, maybe with
already?
a new
I've
eye?
already reinstalled Reactor. And I was opening it within VCV Rack, and I was just like, God damn. Like, this is a whole different fucking rabbit hole that I really didn't want to go down. Trying to stay productive, you know?
Right.
Like, yeah. It
so your next record is in 10 years, 11 years from now?
That's what I'm at least trying to finish this EP before I go off the rails in a different direction.
Yeah.
Like I have a system that I'm using to work on these tracks. I'm trying to keep it to that system. I didn't want to deviate off of it even enough. Like I didn't even want to get distracted by these Noise Engineering plugins. I was like, I know this is going to derail me. And it did. I spent the whole weekend fucking with it instead of finishing the track that I was already working on. However, I've already like quickly figured out how to integrate it into that system that I was already using.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's less of a distraction and more like actually helping me progress the album. So yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
But I don't want to go beyond that. Like as soon as I found myself like fucking around in Reactor again, I was like, no. I was like, what am I doing? Like this needs to wait. Like I can explore this some other time. Need to stay productive.
That's how this sequencer is. It's been accelerating things, whereas the MC707, quite the opposite.
You want to talk about the MC07?
Oh, are you want to still roll on this?
I was just bringing up the noise engineering stuff. Like, you know, it's something that at first glance I thought I had zero interest in, and it just ended up like taking my setup to a whole different level of productivity in about 1 week's worth of time.
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring it up.
I saw those two and was similarly interested, but I don't have, like, I'm not using VCV rack, so I'd have to, like, sequence them in Ableton, and that opens up, like, similar wormholes. Where it's
going
like,
back into the box more than you want. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're on your printout there.
Yeah.
What do you have?
Fucking looping, right? So I got it in my stupid head that I wanted Ableton-like functionality in a live set. Which I kind of do. You know, loops are useful. You've been pursuing
this for a while now.
Been pursuing this for a minute.
And you do have that looper pedal that you've been using.
Yeah, RC505. Yeah. We'll definitely get to that too. RC505 does the trick, and I was like, be cooler to have more effects. It'd be cooler to actually be able to see a grid of things. The RC505, you kind of got to know which preset you want to use. I'd have to keep a piece of paper to keep track. And I was like, oh shit, that Akai Force, like Ansem, like works for Ansem, right? It's got to be able to work for me. So got an Akai Force. First one got fucking lost. Fuck you, FedEx. Got another one back and dug into it. And it's really cool. Like, it's very powerful. It's all like the same Akai MPC shit, except the nice thing about the Force is it doesn't use programs like the MPC does. The dreaded for me program structure, which is a huge grid of fucking parameters that lets you assign samples, change parameters, all this other shit that I don't really want to fuck with, and was really complicated when I had the MPC One and kind of put me off on it. So that part was really cool, except then I tried to like loop with it. I'm like, all right, let me try to do the thing. It's fun to make stuff. They have like these virtual plugins on it. You can stack effects. It reminds me a lot of Machine, like when I was using Machine a whole lot to like play live sets and to do everything in the world. I was like, I want a taste of that again. And the Force kind of had that, seemed to. But then when you loop, like, it can't loop for shit. First, it has two ways to do the loops. You can record clips in like Ableton style, or you can use their looper device. And they never tell you this, and I forgot this about the one, is the looper only works when you have it as master. So you can't, exactly. Oh. You got to have the thing follow to have the looper be able to work, or have it be in master. If you do, it just disables it, and they don't even really tell you why. It just like won't let you record. They don't really mention this anywhere. You got to dig. Like, they should be a little more upfront about that. But I'm like, okay, I'll go to clips, right? Try to record a clip in. Everything seems to sync. It seems to like, you know, follow MIDI clock, like no problem at all. But every time I'd record a loop, it would either fuck it up in the beginning or it would click in a way that was like really driving me nuts.
So when you say fuck up, like what was it fucking up?
Like it would seem to have some artifact when it would play back a loop like intermittently. And another friend of mine who got a Force at the very same time, what's up, Gabo? He kind of indicated the same thing, that it was a little more inconsistent after a while. So I was really frustrated because the whole point of the thing is to be like Ableton in a box. And so I'm like, I'm clearly doing this wrong. I'm going to open up like their demos and shit like that to like check it out. All of the loops in their demos fucking click, unless they have silence at the end of them, which a lot of them do. It's like a 4-bar loop and it'll be like a little phrase and then trail off into silence. Those seem to work all right. But if you have any like loop that would work in Ableton or anything like that, it'll click like every time in a way that's
so
like,
it's not just through zero problem. Like it is just like a click.
It probably is something about the zero crossing, but most things tend to address that with either like a microfade. Like Ableton makes it so you can't really do it wrong,
right?
Which is great. It has never limited me musically, and this thing didn't. I'm like, okay, I'm insane right now. Like I'm expecting this is how loopers work. Like my expectations are fucked up. So I returned it because it was Sweetwater. And Highbrook, the rep, Sweetwater, was probably pissed when I like returned this thing 2 days later. I was like, oh, it can't loop. Because at first I was, like I said, trying to Boss RC 505. It loops like a gem. Like there's never an issue with it. So I'm like, no, people have solved this problem. And so I like gave up. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to try this. And then it was some ad or something like that. I got home at 1 a.m. one night and saw an MC707. And I was like, oh shit, I'm going to try this thing kind of randomly.
And so historically, we've shit on this in the past.
Yeah. The first time we used it at KnobCon, it was like a hot mess. It didn't have a lot of the features. Like when you would switch a scene, it would stop all the effects and then play the next scene. And we're like, this is kind of beta. Mm-hmm. But it turned out they fixed all of that like 8 months ago or something. And like sometime in 2021, they like changed it so you can chain scenes like Ableton style that the effects don't cut off. And it was like, okay, cool. I'll give this a shot. And it works excellently. It loops just as well as the 505. It made me feel more sane because Akai just doesn't know what the fuck they're doing with looping, basically. Same thing with the 1010 black box. That was similar. I ran into it wouldn't follow MIDI clock in any way. It wouldn't even follow transport. And I sold it to my friend Gabo, who then a couple weeks later was like, yeah, it's actually a known bug they found with the firmware that it like won't work with MIDI clock. And I'm like, or it won't resync with MIDI clock and they're going to fix it. I'm like, well, that's useless to me. Like they should have made me aware of it. I don't trust them to even push something out like that. Like what else are you going to do with it? But regardless, I got this 707 and it was pretty exciting. Like the looping worked, the effects were good. It was jack of all trades. It reminded me of the Octatrack. So a lot of people right now are being like, why don't you get an Octatrack? Yeah, I used to beta test the Octatrack, used it for 5-6 years at least. It looped okay, but it sounded kind of like dog shit and the effects were not good. And they should really do a real one day. If they aren't working on that, they're nuts, like we've said before. So I was like really into the 707, but it loops, it works well for that, but it's just honestly like not that much fun in some ways. So there is like the big con, like it's got these detented rotaries on below the menu that you use to like navigate through most shit. And when you're trying to like edit a synthesizer and they have parameters that scale to like 1,000 values and you're using a detented rotary to do it. And when you hit shift, it moves by 100 increments. So you've got it incrementing by 1 or by like 100. And it's like
on that tiny ass menu.
On that tiny ass menu. And even the menu, like I got used to it enough. I'm like, okay, I kind of see what you're doing, synthesizer. Like the synth is cool, but there aren't many parameters. It's more like PCM waves, which is actually cool. Like it's dumb, but I like having like trumpets and like string shit and like stuff I can mutate in music. I've kind of been wanting that. I think I've talked about it before.
But what are the things that they have where the value range is 1,000? Like why do they have? Like what do they have that
filter cutoff? So I get you have like more granularity than just standard 128 value MIDI. Right. But for editing, it's nuts and it's like all zippery when you edit it. But then you get, it's kind of like a TR8S. It's very similar size. It's a little bit deeper. So you get these like soft knobs on every channel, like 3 of them. And those you can assign stuff to, but only like kind of globally. And then you can change a filter there and it kind of works like much more smoothly. It's not a rotary. It just kind of works well. So it's cool. It's like jack of all trades, master of none, like the Octatrack. I'll probably use it, but it's also been like a huge time sink figuring it out. It slowed me down. I like having it there for like 909 and 808 drums because it's got all that stuff on there. Even though it's not synthesis, it's all samples. Like they were clear to not overlap with the TR8S, which it would have been really cool if they had drum synths on there. The Akai Force had that and they were pretty cool. They sounded decent. But so they kind of neutered it a little bit. Again, Electron spoiled me. There's no trigger conditions. You can nudge stuff in time. Weirdly, like each clip and track can be its own BPM. So you get like ultra flexibility.
That's pretty cool.
To the point where they recommend like you should probably name your clips like 128 BPM drum or something for drum A or whatever. Like,
so you can get real poly type shit going on.
Totally. Yeah. You can get really free form with it. You can configure it. Each track can be like a drum or a tone or a looper channel, basically. And it'll do mixing. Like, it has 4 inputs, and they kind of let you use it just as a mixer. So it's actually super cool as like a live mixer, like just a 4 input with really good effects mixer. And you can do the kind of ghost clip Ableton trick where you can just have effects assigned to an empty clip that just passes the signal through, and you can sequence like parameter changes and shit that are kind of crazy.
And it's easy to
it'll
send.
handle it. Yeah. Yeah. So it, like, they've really put a lot of thought into it. You can tell they like really improved it over the years. And I like it, but it's kind of like just sitting there now. And as I have time, I will add something from it or use the synthesizer. It's not like an Access Virus tie, the synthesizer, you know, the filter. They have Jupiter filter model, which sounds kind of cool. And they have like a Moog clone filter model. And they sound cool, but they're like, it's really just the resonance quality seems to change a good bit. So it's like, I really like it. Honeymoon's definitely over with it. I'm going to keep it because it's very useful with what it can do. And like the looping just works. But even in like live sets, I would just use the RC505 again.
That's what I was going to ask.
I came right back to where I started.
I was going to ask if it found a home in the live set.
It might. At first I was like, this in a rhythm would be cool. And then I sat down and used it. And I'm like, this synthesizer is not very fun for me. Like my modular is way more fun. The virus hooked up to the OXI is way more fun. It's just immediate. Like, there are lots of synth parameters, and this one's a little more limited. Like I said, there's like pulse width on waves. That's kind of it. You know? And then you get like sample layers and shit. Cool sampler. It like really has some power. But even when you like pitch stuff up and down, it gets a little shittier than I expect when you do it. And I was a little surprised by that. I was just pitching down like 808, 909 drums up and down, like I do on every machine I've ever had, you know, to get certain sounds. And it just kind of fell apart at some certain points that I was surprised by. But it clocks great, loops great. They really polished it up. I think they should redo it someday to like kind of just be a little better. You know? But the looping adventure is over again. I like the 707. I would use the 505 Live if I wanted to loop, just because it's like built for it. You got a big fat button and you can see it finish the loop and it loops perfectly, and you get 5 of them. On this, you kind of gotta like, oh, I'm gonna go to this track, make sure this is selected. You've got like multiple steps before you're even hitting that button to fire it off.
And it really defeats some of the purpose of a looper. Like when you look at like a looper pedal and people that are using it with like somewhat more traditional acoustic instruments or doing things live, like you want it to be unintrusive. You want it to just be, you know, that's why it originally started with like pedals, like where you stepped on these different parameters. Like it needed to be so simple that it was literally, I'm doing a start, I'm doing a stop. I'm, you know, like, but like everything was intuitive to the point where you could use it with your feet versus that sort of like fiddly, that fiddly mess just doesn't work in a live setting.
No, that first time I used the 505 Live, it was just like, there was no friction, you know, just like, oh, you're doing exactly what I want you to do. Your effects aren't that great. I was tempted to get the new 505, but it wasn't like, I don't know. I still might someday, but this one, like I have this one, it does what I'm just being really picky at this point if I upgrade.
And I saw that, you know, watching you use it, it seemed natural. It seemed like something you just obviously grokked right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how it works. What else with the 707? There was one other thing. Oh yeah, you get like a couple minutes of recording time. It's not.
Wait, really?
Yeah. You don't get much at all. You actually get like 60 seconds, I think, of stereo clips. They have something though where you can like load other clips in. Like you only get one project too with 128 scenes, and you have to stop to load a project, which you have to architect around a little bit. But they add something where you can load clips from like lines of clips from other projects or like from presets. So you can keep going, but it's a little clunky to keep going. You know what I mean? It's not like, it seems like they figured out a lot of stuff with this that they should put into a new version someday, because I think it's like a great idea. I'd still kind of like it more than the Octatrack, but there's something about an Electron that's so comfortable to me too. That's like, that's what I really want, is just like a higher quality Octatrack. At the end of the day, that loops perfectly like the 505 or the 707. So Roland nailed the looping though. They did it like, it just works well. I don't know why Akai can't.
Very weird that they couldn't.
Yeah, it is, especially with the Force, where that like the streaming from disc was one of the biggest things that had me wanting to try it, because I'm like, okay, you can actually have a whole set from this thing, blah blah blah. But you can't fucking loop. Like it made me insane. The Force was like $1,500 or something like that. not cheap, especially to not like do that. If
Right,
you don't
yeah.
want to loop, it's really cool. I think it's fun to make stuff on, but not like for that much money for it to not do its like prime function.
Right.
You can even resample it like seamlessly, and that's like on the 707 you can resample. It's like it's really fun. Like I would take individual drums from
Yeah.
the analog rhythm into the input, and I would raise all the faders, and I'm like, that's exactly like the pattern coming from the rhythm.
I mean, I could do that on my ASRX from like 1999.
Yeah.
Like resampling is a should be a pretty trivial thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
That is very weird.
Yeah. So I don't know if I want something more robust than what the 505 can do at this point. That was the rabbit. I didn't want to go down the like, my portable audio interface is broken, so I would have to buy like a new computer audio interface. My computer is kind of like not great right now, as far as the keyboard not really working, and it's a MacBook, so it's just like I don't want to upgrade my computer and get a new audio interface. That's like thousands of dollars right there. And honestly, I'm trying to like, I'm at the point, I said it at the beginning of the year, but it was cagey about it, but I'm like trying, I don't want anything right now. I explicitly don't want anything new
Right.
for multiple reasons. Yeah. So I'm ready to like do that now, especially with this arriving.
Yeah.
I really love my module. I haven't wanted a module in a while now, actually, because I'm really happy with what I've got.
Same here. I'm getting, for me at least, I'm getting a lot done, which I think is, something can't be dismissed.
Yeah.
Is the fact that like I sit down, I've got a ton of recordings. I now need to go through like the process of arranging and turning them into tracks and stuff. But at no point have I been like, oh, I'm holding off on finishing this track because I need this or that or whatever. Like that's not what's keeping me from actually finishing this shit. Arranging is like so
tedious.
Yeah.
It's not like, and I sit there, I'm like, oh, the module's right there. I could go make some crazy new sound. Like I could go do something cool and fun, but it's like, no, dude.
I totally feel you, dude.
Yeah.
Half of my album is in suspension right now because
Same.
it's just the tracks are recorded.
Yeah.
Bounced them out. They're
It's
ready
all
to
right
be
there.
programmed
Yeah.
and arranged, and I'm just like,
I'm right there too. I've got the 9 things that I've whittled down from like 30. I just am like, I just want to make something new today.
That's what I'm at about like 5 tracks right now that are like all in states of almost being done. You know what I mean? Like
Same.
Yeah, but even just this thing here, this palette, I could turn this on and make something new.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's gonna be some new sounds here.
That looks fun as fuck right there.
This is a blast. But I actually kind of need to put this to the side and be like, nope, I've already got stuff out of this.
I did get a new module, and I've been doing the same thing. I've been kind of like avoiding playing with it for that reason. I'm trying to like remain productive, but it was a total impulse buy. The Vhikk.
Oh yeah.
From Forge Time. I can talk about it a little bit.
By all means.
I'd love
Yeah.
to hear about this.
Yeah. So I don't actually know if they're called Forge Time. It's written as Forge TME, but like my brain just always reads it as Forge Time.
So it could be Forge Tome, Forge Tame,
Yeah.
Forge Tomb. I'm basically just putting in all the vowels.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
probably
going with time.
It's probably time. It's probably not tame. That doesn't make sense.
Or just TME, because it is in all caps the way they write it. So
No, I don't like that.
I don't know.
I don't like it. Time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Forge Time.
Same.
So total new manufacturer.
Yeah.
No track record,
Yeah.
no hype, no pre-orders, no bullshit, just
This is the real underground shit.
real underground shit,
It
dude.
is.
It just appeared on Mod Wiggler saying, hey, this is who I am, and here's the module I've been working on while in lockdown for the last 2 years. It's finally released. You can order it from my website. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it seemed a little sussy Buckeye. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was
at
just
first.
like, I was like, what's this? I was like, no Kickstarter trying to rope me in? What is this nonsense,
I need to be courted, sir.
Right. I'm a lady. So yeah, I was kind of like put off a bit by how straightforward it was, but at the same time intrigued. And I was like, okay, like clearly this got to be garbage, right? Or something.
Right,
No
right.
one's carrying this shit. It's not in any
I
manufacturer.
haven't got an email blast.
It's a direct order from the website. Yeah, no email blast, and it's limited to 50. And I was like,
Ooh.
yeah, and I was like, But So I started watching the YouTube videos, and I was like, okay, now I'm getting a little curious because it was very just dark and like foreboding, the sounds that were coming out of this thing. And I was like, it has my ears, so did more research into it to see what exactly it is. And I think it's better if I just read their description because it really doesn't explain much at all. It left me with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
The Vhikk is a multi-algorithm experimental synth voice, specializing in, but not limited to, complex drones and basses, rich textures, and dynamic effects. It combines sound generation and effects processing into one module with 9 different modes. The general architecture consists of a bank of wavetable oscillators sent through a filter section, which then passes into a delay-based structure. The specific architecture and character of these sections dependent on the selected mode. And that's it. Tells you not much. Aside from the fact that you know that this is a self-contained synth voice, it has some form of filter, some form of effects on it, and that it's wavetable bank based. I like wavetables. Yeah. I like things that have lo-fi effects. And so yeah, I looked into it more. Finally said, fuck it. I'm gonna take a leap here. Because there was only 50 and people were, I guess, were also curious, and I saw they're already scooping them up. And I was like, well, if I delay, I'm not gonna have the chance to check this out. If I get it and I don't like it, I can probably flip it. So took the leap, got it. It got here relatively fast. It shipped from Melbourne, Australia, which is where he's based. Cost $350 USD. And I liked it a lot, like immediately. It's still hard to understand exactly what the fuck is happening. So it mentions the 9 different modes. Those are all controlled with 2 3-way flip switches.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if one switches up and the other's mid,
permutations and combinations.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're flipping those 2 switches, and on top of that, there's generative functions that occur every time you flip the switch. It slightly alters the algorithm of the wavetable and the effects generator.
Wild.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are those toggles CVable?
No.
Okay, so you can't just fire off a bunch of CV to that. Okay, because
I wish you could do it like Basilima style.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
CV the mode.
Yeah.
You cannot. That is one of the only things you can't CV. You can CV mostly everything else, except for some of the knobs at the top, which I don't remember exactly what those do. One is span, which is changing something. I think the unison, basically, of the wavetable oscillators. It's a strange beast.
Does it have a screen? How do you know what's
it's all up front, and you just got to feel it out.
So even the wavetable, you don't...
No clue.
You're just listening by ear.
You're playing it by ear. You're exploring weird, semi-generative territory with every flip of the switch. It's crazy fun. Some people are already annoyed by that and have complained that you can't get back to the same type of sound exactly. You're not memorizing sweet spots with this. Every time you're fucking with it, you're exploring new territory.
But those people have no sense of adventure and whimsy.
No. Right. I have a lot of stuff that I can be precise with.
Right.
If I want to. And I even have a lot of stuff in VCV now where I can save a snapshots and get back to that immediately if I want to. This is an entirely different ball game. This is purely sound exploration. Yeah, it's just alchemy. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. The feel of it is it seems like it's meant to be an industrial friendly, noisy, I don't want to call it lo-fi, but the effects definitely are on the lo-fi side of things. It reminds me sonically a lot of when I used to run a cycle box through a Plague Bearer and a Sound of Shadows delay and create weird texture drones with that combo.
Yeah.
Except
Real topical reference, by the way.
Is it?
No, that's from 10 years ago.
Yeah, my bad. I'm is people buying cycle boxes again?
I was going to say, to all of our listeners, you may need to actually go look up what those are.
They brought the Plague Bearer back, if you didn't
Did they
see
really?
that, a new version.
Oh, I didn't see that.
A new version, yeah. Very limited run of quads again, too. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I missed out on it. I tried to get one. I should have never sold that. But
I'm not selling it back. You cannot afford the price.
He did a new one. I know. Like
No, the price that I would charge you, which is blood and bones. It is not
All
money.
your blood and bones.
Yeah, it is not money.
People are flipping them at high rates, of course.
I'm not getting rid of mine ever.
The newer ones are very, very economic, I'll say. I think.
Oh, really?
I think he was selling the black new version of the quad for $350 or something like that. Yeah, but I missed out on it. They got snagged up immediately.
I didn't mean to digress. I just
But yeah.
when you listed 3 modules, I'm like, yeah, those are very old. It's been a while since you did that.
Those
old
ones
chain.
are old.
Yeah.
But that was a very that was my go-to chain for a minute. There was like those 3, or like the Piston Honda through those 2. Like I loved running wavetable based digital oscillators through like a Plague Bearer and a shitty PT based delay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sound Shadows was kind of my go-to, but I had others too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This might be a PT based delay chip. I don't know it, but it has that weird like kind of like glitchiness when you push it further, and it can get almost reverbish in some ways.
So where does it shine? Is it shining in the low end, the high end? Are you using it as a pad? Are you using it as like kick drum material?
Textures.
Okay.
Textures. 100% textures and drone. Just noisescapes. You
So
know.
does it have volt per octave input? I don't know.
It does. It tracks. In fact, the guy that makes it wasn't even sure that it tracked accurately. Like at first, he was like, "I think it does," and he was like, "If you turn a CV fully clockwise or whatever, I think it tracks 1 volt octave." And he was saying it was like kind of being weird, but then he updated later. He was like, "Whoops, the way I was measuring it was wrong. Yes, it 100% tracks well." And it's like cool. But it's the type of thing where like I don't know if you'd really want to. You know what I mean? Like I sent it a sequence, but for the most part, I was just CVing the other parameters, not necessarily the pitch, and just creating like stretched out long washes of weird industrial noisescapes with it. You know, that's really where it shines for me. And I think that's kind of the intent of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, fully self-contained module. The only thing that's lacking really is like a VCA, but the filter when you're in low pass mode fully closes. So you can use that as like a pseudo VCA, you know, and it's pretty cool.
Is this the only thing they make?
Yes.
Yeah.
This was their first release, the only thing they made. They only made 50 of them. They're already sold out. He's contemplating doing another run. But also in like his YouTube videos, you can see a few other modules that have his same style and panel on it. So I think there's going to be more coming from this guy in the future. And I hope there is, because I feel like for your first module, this kind of like knocked it out of the park. You know what I mean? Like this was a definite hit, in my opinion. I'm curious to see what the hell else he concocts. Again, that's Forge Time, and the module is called Vhikk. At least I believe that's how you pronounce it. I think it's Vhikk. Yeah. I'm guessing as in like vehicle.
Oh,
I don't know. It has like a Viking type of look to it. You know, the panel is just all black with like muted gold
This
lettering.
is giving me like Videodrome vibes.
Yeah.
Like this is the tape that James Wood put in that like he thought was a snuff film. Like that this has sent you down a path to the new flesh.
I wanted something like that for a while. You know what I mean? Like and I've missed certain combinations of shit like that, you know, like I mentioned. So this like got me back there fairly efficiently, you know, like all self-contained. It's just a nice little noise module that I'm having a lot of fun with, routing it through other shit. I forgot to mention it also outputs stereo. So like even though it's lo-fi, it's stereo output and it has an audio input that you can process through that shit.
Now, do you get the wavetable shit when you use the audio in? Like, how does that work?
It fucks with it some way. I don't really understand. I think it's kind of like a piston Honda type of like, I think you're running it through everything. I think it's strange. I don't think it's just the filter and delay, because when I was messing with the switches and running something through it, it was proving itself to be a good fuck shit up module.
Yeah.
You know, like I was just kind of mutilating the sound source. Not really sure what it was doing, but it sounded.
Have you put any beats through it or anything?
That's the first thing I tried.
I figured.
And I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah. I was running beats through it. I was running other oscillators through it, and it's all just strange. I'm digging it a lot. I don't think I'll be parting with it anytime soon. So I think that was a good leap of faith I took on it.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Totally didn't need it. And it was completely
Kind of sounds like you did, though.
impulse buy.
Kind of seems like you did, though.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of use out of it.
Already, yeah, it's suiting itself well to the new album, which has a lot of, atmosphere to it. Yeah.
So that's pretty good. I mean, I think we hit the ground running. Does anybody else have anything on their list that they would like to go over?
That was it for me.
My list, but the rest of my list is video shit, and I don't need to talk about it.
Okay.
I could talk really quickly about the Dnipro gate crate. Dnipro.
What the fuck is
That's
that?
the
Spell that?
Ukrainian city, DNIPRO,
Okay.
which I had to look up the pronunciation before this because I was like, it's not DNI Pro, it's Dnipro.
Dnipro.
Yeah. But yeah, Ukrainian module manufacturer. I got a crate not too long ago because it's a 3-channel knob recorder. And it's awesome. It's like an incredible design. It's tempo synced, basically everything. It's got a few different modes. Knob recorder, which is always clock synced. LFO tempo, which can be clock synced or not. And then that may be it. There's maybe some other mode. I don't know. Those are the two that I use it for. But as far as knob recorders go, I think I may have talked about the Patching Panda ephemerae before.
I think you did, yeah.
This is way simpler. You can get 3 of them. Patching Panda is a little different because you can play like samples back. You can do that too. I love this module though. As far as like knob recorder, it feels like Electron knob recording in a modular that's always in time. You can change the length of it to be like 1 bar up to 8 bars, I think. Really slick interface. And like even when you knob record, you can record it and you hold it in, and if you let it go, it just kind of manipulates that offset in time. And then when you hit record, you can like punch it in, and it's almost like punching in gates into it, like a square, and letting it go. So you can come up with these crazy shapes. It'll respect like time if you slow it down and still play at the same duration, like kind of time stretch it.
Does the recording on and off take gate? Or is it all manual?
No, that's manual.
Okay.
That's interesting though. If you were able to like trigger the recording,
Right. So
with
yeah,
gates,
basically
that could be cool.
you were just sitting there kind of like screwing with the knob, and the gate was actually handling the recording.
Yeah.
No.
But I'm super, super into it. It's one of those things where you just immediately are using it and integrating into things. There's like no learning curve. It's awesome.
How big is it? Is this a big module?
It's like 6 HP.
Oh,
It's
wow.
pretty small. It has that little vertical OLED screen.
Oh, that's the one you were showing us.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, I do remember this now.
I love it.
That interface was really interesting.
Yeah, it's great. It makes like total sense. It's cool because if they had it horizontal, it'd be a wider module, and like you just get it. It just like they really did a good job with the UX on it. It just works really well. I don't even know if it's on the latest firmware. I haven't upgraded because I'm like, well, if it does what I want, like I don't know if I need to upgrade.
What have you been typically using it for? Like how? Like what are you? What you're recording? What are you sending that to?
Filter, wavetable automation.
Okay.
Sometimes other parameters, but like shit like that. Like decay on envelopes.
Do you see it
typical.
like using it live, like sort of recording things? Okay.
It's like stuck in live set. I think you could even I could not have LFOs and have that, and it would make more sense actually.
Oh,
for
that's
me.
cool.
It gives me like that much more kind of control. Between that and the Maestro, those I might not have any other LFOs in a live rig. It would just be that and the Maestro. That like makes the most sense to me actually. 'Cause then you don't have to like you get like presets kind of or not, and it's just like it's very clear how to get it into that certain arrangement.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm psyched too. They're not that expensive. I think they're like hard to get right now because obviously they're not making much of them.
I was going to ask, do you know anything about the company and how they're faring?
They've chimed in. I think they're like, yep, we're all right for now. But I haven't seen much of an update there because I know same thing with Happy Nerding, also from Ukraine. And there's another company I can't remember right now that's also from Ukraine.
I don't know if we've actually said this, but fuck Putin, fuck the
Oh my
war,
God,
fuck the
yeah,
invasion,
that's-
fuck all of that. I don't know if it necessarily even needed to be said, but if there was any ambiguity,
Victory to Ukraine.
Yes.
yeah, fuck all of
Drink
this.
that.
Yes.
But yeah, the weaponized version of the disinformation campaigns that we experienced under Trump as an experiment for what they're doing now.
Okay, so we started out this episode super posy. Like we had all these great things to say. I do feel like ending it with this is on brand.
Solid.